Creating new Selenium test code for your BDD Cucumber feature files is easy with Parasoft Selenic. I have here a series of scenarios that I have created in Cucumber using the Gherkin given, when, then terminology. What I'd like to do is add a new scenario to my feature file. Basically, what I want to do is log into my application and navigate to a new page, find transactions. I want to then enter some information for a transaction, find the transaction, and then assert the transaction text. If I was going to create that as a new scenario in my feature file, the steps would look like this. Given that I am on Parabank landing page, when I log in to Parabank with John Demo, and I am on the Find Transactions page, and I search for a transaction with $100, then I want to verify the first transaction has the text funds transfer sent. Okay. If I save this, you'll notice that I actually have 2 of these action phrases already implemented. The remaining 3 are net new. I want to create the glue code and the underlying test code for these steps. I am using a free Cucumber plugin, which I'll post a link to in the details. With this plugin, I can easily create skeleton glue code for my step definitions. So let me do that. Okay, here are the step definitions, and each one is connected to my steps. These are the 3 new action phrases I'm going to have now. This step def file is connected to my Selenium code, and that Selenium code is using the Page Object Model. What I can do with Parasoft Selenic is update the underlying page objects, reference those page objects in my glue code, and then easily update those steps with the appropriate Selenium code. And to make that easy, I can use the Parasoft Selenium recorder for Selenic. A powerful feature of the recorder is in the ability to go exactly where I need to be in my application and then start the recording of those actions. So let's go. I'm going to click on Find Transactions and go to Find by Amount. I will specify $100 and then click Find Transaction. And because I want to assert on this text, I'm going to click on the element so that I record the element locator. I'll use that later on to create my assertion. Okay, I will now stop the recording. I'll name this Find Transactions. I'll give it a description, and then save the file. I can then hand that off to a test automation specialist or use it myself. I'm going to use it myself. I am now going to create the test code, and I have 2 options. I could create a new project from scratch or import the recording into an existing Java project. I'm going to import into an existing project today, but if you're interested in the new project creation, I recommend checking out the Create Selenium Project from Scratch video in this playlist. Okay, let's import into an existing project. I will call this Find Transactions Test. I'm not actually going to use this test, but since Selenic has already created all the test code that I could possibly need, I'm going to harvest that code from my step definition glue code. Additionally, Selenic has created these 2 new page objects with element locators for me. The page objects correspond to pages I visited during my recording: Accounts Overview page and Find Transactions page. So let's start cutting and pasting. I'm going to start with these imports: Accounts Overview page and Find Transactions page. Okay, so let me paste them into my glue code. The second thing I'm going to need is the references to my page objects. The syntax will be similar to how I had my imports. So let me just paste this code here. Notice the underscores? That'll be important later. Okay, so now let's deal with our new step defs. Let's scroll down to the bottom where I created my skeleton code, and let's start with I am on Find Transactions page. I actually have all the test code I need for this right here in my recording. It's actually going to be this first part of the scenario. So what you will see here is I'm going to cut and paste and then cut and paste the different pieces that I need in order to build my glue code. So I will toss this in here and make the appropriate modifications to my variables. And this is where the underscore comes in. And that's all I need to navigate to the transactions page. Okay, let me do the same thing for search for a transaction with the amount 100. And that's going to be this code. Here, I'll just paste this in and change the underscores. For the parameter with the automatic creation, it calls it arg1. So I will just change this to arg1. And there, I have successfully built the first two pieces of my Selenium test automation code. What I need to do now is this final assertion. Now, I didn't actually assert in my test, but the good news is that when Selenic created the page object for this transaction, it also created the element locator for the element I wanted to assert on. So what I'm going to do is turn this click action into a get action. Let me paste what that code would look like. And there you go. Now I can use this get funds transfer send link in my glue code by building a very simple assert. And I'm going to assert arg1 just like before, and then use that new method that I just created. And that's it. I have everything I need in order to automate the validation of my new scenario. Plus, these action phrases and step defs will be available to future scenarios. So let's go ahead and execute the scenario and validate that my fourth scenario executes successfully. So here comes my first scenario. Here's the second. Here's the third. Here comes my new scenario. And there you go. In just a few minutes, I was able to create new scenarios for my feature file and add the appropriate Selenium test code for automation.